Will that encourage you to do the Miss Marvel, the Muslim superhero?
We're doing Captain Marvel right now. Captain Marvel's shooting right now with Brie Larson. Miss Marvel, which is another character in the comic books, the Muslim hero who was inspired by Captain Marvel, is definitely sort of in the works. We have plans for that once we've introduced Captain Marvel to the world.
I am so disillusioned.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. I got a lot of requests to do a video about this Miss Marvel teaser that Kevin Feige dropped. Like, oh, we have plans to introduce her. We're definitely going to do it after Captain Marvel. So if you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe to get all the Marvel videos. There's a Black Panther giveaway that's going on that I'll explain at the end of the video. But the big deal with Miss Marvel is that obviously you can't do her till after you do Captain Marvel because of the way she was introduced in the comics, and even though they changed a lot of things, they do try to remain relatively true to comic book origins. She debuted right after Marvel's big Infinity event a couple years ago. What a coincidence that after Infinity War, Kevin Feige is teasing that some of the repercussions will be the introduction of new Marvel heroes. So you're starting to see how they're using the logic of the finger snap to spin off plot for other movies. But I know there are a lot of questions about when she's going to appear, whose movies is she going to pop up in, how are they going to use the character in those movies, because she's in Jersey City, Spider-Man, for example, is in Queens on the other side of Manhattan. They both go to magnet schools. The one that Miss Marvel goes to in Jersey City is called Coles Academic High School. The one that Spider-Man goes to, obviously Midtown High, everybody knows that. That's in Forest Hills on the other side of Manhattan. Like I said, they're separated by the island of Manhattan, and Spider-Man is mostly been involved with all this big, high-level Avengers stuff. Miss Marvel feels more like a Defenders street-level character, so I'm expecting them to use her in that way in these other big Avengers movies. And when I say Avengers movies, what I mean is like the Captain Marvel sequel, or in a Spider-Man sequel, she would show up. I don't expect them to introduce her overnight and then just automatically make her an Avenger. It took Spider-Man a while to work up to being knighted an Avenger by Iron Man during Infinity War. So I should actually say, because I forgot to say it earlier, careful for spoilers from Infinity War. I feel like this is one of the last weekends that most people are waiting to go see the movie, so we should be clear of spoiler territory within the next week. But a lot of you are like, hey, wait a minute, didn't they just cancel the Inhumans TV show on ABC? What does that mean for Miss Marvel because she's an Inhuman in the comics? How are they going to weave that into her comic book backstory in the MCU if they're not planning on doing Inhumans? The big thing about the Inhumans as a film property is that way back when they first started Phase 1, the whole idea of putting that movie on the schedule like, hey, we're going to be doing an Inhumans movie down the road, was at the time people felt like it was a strategic move against Fox because of the way the Inhumans powers read. They feel a lot like mutants, even though per the comics, they're not technically mutants. It's just a biological origin for powers, and the MCU thus far has largely been technologically based. Eventually, what ended up happening is we get to this Disney-Fox deal that looks like it might happen by the end of next year. They're saying that the deal was going to be completed by the end of next summer. That means that they can use the term mutant inside the MCU. They can use any of those big characters that they want. So they have the biggest, most popular characters that have biological powers like that. Why would they then need to introduce the Inhumans unless you wanted to do Black Bolt and include him in the Illuminati if they end up doing a movie like that in Phase 4? Even if Kevin Feige wants to do some version of them at some point, it seems like they're not a big priority for him, just given what's happened in the last year. So Miss Marvel's origin would have to be a little bit different. Now, they could give her powers from Captain Marvel's powers, but that's not exactly the way that it happened in the comics. She's just a big fangirl of Carol Danvers. Then during Marvel's Infinity, Black Bolt sets off a Terrigen bomb that causes a big portion of the planet to go through Terrigenesis. Miss Marvel has Inhuman DNA, so naturally she goes through that process, gets powers, but she has this vision of Carol Danvers, like a hallucination of her in the big Terrigen cloud. So because she's a big Carol Danvers fangirl, she calls herself Miss Marvel and makes a costume for herself that's based on Miss Marvel's classic comic book costume with the big bolt down the middle. So Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, wields cosmic power. She absorbs near infinite amounts of energy and can redirect it. She can go binary, but Miss Marvel, like I said, more of a Defenders, street-level hero. She can make parts of her body bigger and more dense, so it's like a biological version of what Ant-Man does when he becomes Giant Man, only she has more fine-tuned control of it. So she can just make her fist real big if she wants, she can make her legs really long so she can step really far and travel really fast, or she can become as big as a building. Maybe not quite as big as Ant-Man. Like Ant-Man says that his limit is 65 feet during the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer. I imagine Miss Marvel would be closer to like 30 feet. they might change that for the movies, but it just sounds like they'll wait to the Captain Marvel sequel whenever that eventually ends up happening. We'll just assume that it's happening for now, depending on how the first Captain Marvel movie goes, and then just have her pop up wherever she feels like she fits best. So what they've done lately in Phase 3 and now going into Phase 4 is they do those team-up movies, like where they pair the Hulk with Thor. So they just find good pairings, like which two characters work really well. So my hope is that for the Spider-Man sequels, Kevin Feige said that we'd be doing the Harry Potter thing following Spider-Man through high school. So if that holds up and they re-sign their sharing arrangement with Sony and we get a third Spider-Man movie, he's finishing high school in that, and they have some minor crossover with Ms. Marvel, assuming that that movie drops after the Captain Marvel sequel, wherein they might introduce that Ms. Marvel character. Because it does feel like you have to wait for a Captain Marvel movie to introduce the Ms. Marvel character. Then Phase 5, Phase 6, whatever going forward, depending on how the character works out, they can just put her wherever they want. And you assume they start out with a younger version of the character that's close to Spider-Man's age. So if you assume he's about 17 as of the events of the finger snap, then in a couple years when Spider-Man's heading into his third sequel, he'll be about 18. You introduce the Ms. Marvel character in the Captain Marvel sequel. She's like 15, 16 years old. But beyond that, Kevin Feige hasn't said much about what they plan to do with the character. Just expect them to change her backstory the way they're changing Carol Danvers' backstory. We'll get more details about that soon. Even though Marvel said that they're not doing a Comic-Con panel, that does not mean that they won't drop a trailer. So there will be a lot of Marvel Avengers 4 related stuff happening at the end of the year. I think they're just going to be kind of quiet about it during the summer. But here's a brief clip of Ms. Marvel in Avengers Assemble, just to give you an idea for how her powers work.
Do not want to die at Avengers Tower. Or anywhere else for that matter. No! Gotcha. Dante!
I'm okay! Oh, yeah! I can fly! Phase polarity. Keep that ceiling from crushing me, please.
This is too heavy.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Why do they make buildings so heavy?
So let me know in the comments, how do you want them to introduce the Ms. Marvel character? And if she's not going to be an Inhuman, how do you want her to get her powers? And which other movies do you want to see her pop up in if she's going to be a relatively high school age person, one of the younger MCU actors? There is that Black Panther Blu-ray that's still going on. All you have to do to enter that is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. Congratulations to the winner from my last big video, Russ Red Cloud. I did talk about the Juggernaut and what they might be doing with that character in my last big Deadpool video, so you can check that out. Click here for that, then click here for more Avengers 4. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.